Eliot Weil had always believed his life was built on steel and stone. His real estate empire shone in the center of New York with glass towers, his name was in every newspaper, and his fortune was estimated at billions. He knew how to convince people, by their dreams, sell promises in the form of apartments with a view of the sky. It seemed that nothing could shake this confidence. But one morning he woke up to the ringing of the doorbell. The voice on the receiver was cold and official. "Mr. Weil, this is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You must come to us immediately for questioning." His fingers closed on the phone as if he were holding a grenade about to explode. Weil had always played by the rules, or rather, by his own rules. He invested in politicians, paid for campaigns, had influential judges in his pocket. But this time something was different. He was suspected of money laundering, and most importantly, of fraud with land owned by war veterans. It felt like a blow to the heart. Veterans were a sacred symbol of America. And if even a crumb of this information leaked to the media, his name would become a curse. When he arrived for questioning, 2 agents were waiting for him in a dark room with fluorescent lights. They didn't raise their voices, they didn't intimidate him. They simply laid out documents, signatures, agreements, bank transfers in front of him. All roads led to him. "This is impossible," he muttered, but even to his own ears it didn't sound convincing. As he left the FBI building, he felt the air around him grow thick as tar. His driver opened the door of the black limousine, but even inside the car he felt a cold weight of suspicion. That evening he turned on the television, and saw his face on the screen. The news anchor spoke in an even voice. Billionaire Eliot Weil found himself at the center of a high-profile scandal. He is accused of illegally enriching himself on land that should have belonged to the families of veterans. His heart sank. He knew that even if it was a lie, tomorrow's society would believe it more than the truth. His reputation was shattering like glass under a hammer. His wife, who had always been there, was silent. His son refused to talk on the phone. Even his partner's calls stopped. In the world he had built, the walls began to fall with incredible speed. He raised his glass of whiskey, looking at his reflection in the glass. Who did this? And why now? For the first time in many years, Eliot felt not control, but powerlessness. And somewhere deep inside him a premonition arose: his life would never be the same again. His lawyers tried to dispel the charges, and the media tore Eliot to pieces. Magazines that had only yesterday called him a builder of the future now wrote corrupter. Television shows where he sat in the chair of the guest of honor now depicted him in caricatures, with bags of dollars and hands in blood. But the real blow came from those he considered his allies. His partner John Miller publicly declared, "I did not know about Weil's illegal schemes. If it is true, he acted without my participation." These words shattered him. John was a childhood friend, they started in business together, experienced their first failures together. And now he had betrayed. When the woman he had loved for 20 years left him a short note, "I can't be there when the truth comes out," he realized that he was left alone. Even his son posted on social media, "I don't want to carry that name anymore." His company had lost billions in a matter of weeks. Stocks were crashing. His office in Midtown Manhattan, where life had always been bustling, was now empty and cold. At night, he would sit on the top floor of his tower and look out over the city that had only yesterday been his empire. And then the first thread of the dark truth emerged. An anonymous letter left on his desk contained a copy of the document. The forged signatures did not belong to him, but to specially trained people. Someone had deliberately created the forgeries. And this someone had access to all of his internal agreements. "This is not just a conspiracy," he whispered. "This is war." But when he tried to present this evidence in court, they wouldn't accept it. He was made to understand, the system was against him. There were people in the government who wanted him down. And most importantly, his former friends were now in the same camp as his enemies. In the finale of this act, sitting in his villa by the ocean, he heard the roar of airplanes and distant sirens merge into a strange chaos. And for the first time in his life, Eliot cried. Not for money, not for power, because the world he believed in turned out to be an illusion. The next morning he received a call. A woman's voice said softly, "If you want to know the truth, meet me at the old library on the Brooklyn waterfront. Midnight." He didn't trust it. But there was still a spark of hope in him. And he came. In the dark room, amidst the smell of old books, a woman in a dark cloak was waiting for him. When she lifted her hood, he recognized her. It was Catherine, a journalist with whom he had once had an affair, before they were married. She had disappeared from his life 10 years ago, and now she was back. "Eliot, you've been framed," she said, spreading out the papers. "I've been working on this investigation for a year. It's a conspiracy. It's the corporations behind it, trying to take you out of business. They have people in the FBI, in the courts, in the media." She showed him photographs, printouts of emails, transcripts of conversations. And it all came together. His name was being used to destroy him and seize control of multi-billion-dollar deals. He sat in the dark, clutching papers. His body trembled not with fear but with anger. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. She answered simply. "Because I'm the only one who still believes you're not a monster." This meeting was a turning point. He had found an ally. But more importantly, he had gained knowledge that would change everything. For the first time in months, he felt power in his own hands again. In the evening, as the rain pattered against the windows, Catherine set an old leather-bound folder on the table. Inside were accounting journals, offshore schemes, chains of donors for political campaigns, and strange veteran funds that existed only on paper. "This is the skeleton of their shadow," she said. "But we need someone who saw her alive." Then a man in a gray coat emerged from the darkness of the parking lot, nervously clutching his keys. Marcus Lee, former compliance officer at the Northgate Consortium, Catherine introduced him. He looked at the floor, as if afraid of confronting his own conscience. "They have people everywhere," Marcus whispered. "I brought something for which they can destroy not only me. I need a guarantee that my family will not be touched." Eliot felt the old instinct rise in him, to pay, to pressure, to buy silence. But he took a deep breath. "I can't trade silence anymore. Only light." "You'll get protection and my word, publicly," he replied. The word that had once been the currency of influence was suddenly his only weapon. The next day he walked into John Miller's office. His once best friend sat in the semi-darkness, as if in a strange house. "You knew," Eliot said without preamble. "Your signatures are on the contracts of shell companies. You had the keys to all my safes." John smiled wearily. "I thought we were partners. And then they came to me, showed me how your shadow was eating up the market. They said if I didn't go with them, they'd bury me under your ruins. I have a daughter. Cancer. She needs treatment that even I can't afford. You sold me," Eliot said quietly. "But it's not me who hurts the most. You sold our memories, John." He pulled out the flash drive and placed it on the table. "Here's the way out. Become a witness. Choose not me, choose the true you." John was silent for a long time. "I am not ready," he whispered. "I am," Eliot answered and left. The board of directors greeted him like a jury. "The reputational risk is unacceptable. You must step aside," the chairman's dry voice said. Once he would have bargained, threatened, counted votes. Now he simply signed his resignation. "I am handing over control of the Veterans Charitable Foundation to an independent board of trustees. All projects where there is doubt are on hold. All profits from this quarter are for real housing programs for military families. If I did even a fraction of what they accuse me of, let that be my first correction," he said into the microphones. The empty hall rang in his head, but for the first time in his chest, silence fell. Live, in the studio where he had once been scattered into memes, Catherine laid out the evidence, and Marcus testified. The system imitated charity to launder money and squeeze land for government tenders. They used my name as a showcase, Eliot said. The host narrowed her eyes. Do you accept moral responsibility? He clenched his fists. I admit guilt and pride and deafness. I did not see how a suit for a crime was sewn in my name. And I will not try to buy off with silence. He named names, showed diagrams. At that moment, the screen lit up, defamation lawsuit. Court prohibits distribution of materials. The consortium lawyers pulled out old-world tools, an injection of fear. As he left the building, he saw a security cordon blocking the exit. For your own safety, they said, handing out papers. A voice came from the blare of cameras, Dad. His son stood behind the reporters, wet from the rain, wearing an old baseball cap. Are you really doing this? Against everyone? He asked, swallowing back tears. Not against everyone, Eliot replied. For those we've made invisible. His son held out his hand. Then go. I'm right here. The security backed away. As Eliot stepped onto the wet sidewalk, he felt like he was leaving his own tower without an umbrella for the first time. All or nothing, he said into the void, and the city seemed to fall silent for a moment to listen. The trials dragged on for months, like a long winter. Some charges were dropped, some were reformatted into fines and corporate bans. Several officials were accused of conspiracy, top Northgate executives were detained, Marcus's video confession became a symbol of courage, and Catherine's article a textbook for young journalists. John disappeared from the radar for a while, and then appeared in court with downcast eyes, and spoke. I was afraid. But fear is a chain that carries us into the abyss. He signed a deal with the investigation and handed over the keys to the vaults. Eliot sat in the courtroom, listening to the dominoes of other people's names fall. Meanwhile, his own empire was being sold off piece by piece, like furniture from a once glowing penthouse. He didn't defend it, he just watched carefully to make sure the Veterans Fund got the first real checks, the first construction, the first keys in the hands of the families who had been waiting for years. One morning he was unloading planks on a yard in a small country town where the ruins of an old barracks once stood. Mr. Weil, someone called timidly. I'm Tom Garrett, a retired Marine. My son got his keys yesterday. The man held out a box of pie. I don't know how to thank you any better. Eliot laughed, unexpectedly gentle. I'm learning all over again. Later, as the sun was setting behind the red roofs, his son arrived, this time without cameras or questions. They sat on the unfinished porch, listening to the crickets sing. You were a hero to the world, but to me, a shadow, the son said. Today you're real. Eliot was silent for a long time. I thought love was something that worked best when you didn't touch it with money. It turns out you have to protect it from money every day. Catherine arrived late, boxes of books in the trunk, her investigation had been published. I'm leaving town for a while, she said, to write something without names or sorrows. Maybe a story about a man who keeps laying bricks even after the tower has been taken from him. She looked at him as if asking permission. Write about everyone, he said. About Marcus. About John. About the boy who got the keys. About the woman who gave me my voice back. They smiled, and there was no debt between them. When the first houses were delivered, the reporters came again, this time without the desire for scandal. Can you be rich and honest? The young reporter asked, holding the microphone, but her eyes were curious, not angry. Eliot looked down at his rough-hewn hands. Wealth is not a sum, it's a vector. If it's directed only at you, honesty dies. If it's from you, then there's a chance. I haven't become a saint. I've just learned to see where my hands are going. Which is more important, truth or success, came the next thing. He sighed. Truth is air. Success is only height. Without air, height kills. Can you buy back the past? Catherine asked quietly, though she wasn't holding the microphone. No, he said. But you can pay in advance for the future of others. And live like that every day. In the evening, when the workers had dispersed, he looked up at the sky. The city was far away, here the stars were visible like nails nailed to infinity. Once he had wanted to own the horizon. Now it was enough to have a piece of light above the roof that he and his son would finish tomorrow. The price of silence is empire, he thought. The price of a voice is yourself. I choose the latter. He smiled because for the first time he felt that he was not running away from falling, but was walking towards life. The finale was open like the evening sky, but there was no emptiness in it. There were questions that he would answer from now on not with words, but by the way he placed brick by brick, from himself outward.